Since we've met, there has been a transition at Hopewell High School. I don't know the interim that's there, but Mr. Jones, who was there, has resigned due to health reasons. So there is some change at Hopewell High School. Though that's not our assigned high school at this particular moment, it's always good to kind of know what's going on in the area around us. So that is the only principal change beyond Cornelius Elementary, which happened at the very beginning of the year. Mr. Garvin went to another school, and there's a new principal at Cornelius. But other than that, all the principals in this area have stayed pretty set since from when the school year started. Communication-wise, hopefully, you're getting a great deal of communication from the school. We are trying to use a wide net in regard to what we're getting out to parents. We know not everybody's on Facebook, but we do use it as a tool, and I found it to be a very effective tool when I was at my previous school. If you're not on Facebook, I'm not promoting Facebook as a method. We get the information out other ways too. But it is a way that I found very quickly I was able to get information out to parents. So we will post information there. The PTA, thanks to Ms. Kester, has really done a really good job of sending out email blasts at different times when we have to get information out to parents. So that is another opportunity for parents to be on that list. And we also send the newsletter home to families every week. We are playing with the date of the newsletter. We got some feedback. I met with Ms. Gilbert, our PTA president. We were sending it home on Fridays. And then there was some parent feedback in regard to some parents weren't reading it on Fridays. So the whole objective of sending that information home is for families to read it. I was under the impression that most people would read it over the weekend because that's when you have time. At least that's when I typically have the time. But a lot of parents say they kind of shut down Friday afternoon and then they start back up Monday. So we may be sending it home on a Sunday or something like that. We're playing around with that. So the PTA is listening to the feedback the parents are giving in regard to that. It's not going to change the newsletter. They may tinker with it a little bit to not make it as long as it is. Right now, my message is tied into there, and we also try to put some other community events in there just to keep our families aware of what's going on. But we know that it could be a bit much for people. So that's another way we're sharing. Also, the teachers should be sending an email every single week to you in regard to what's going on in the classroom. Hopefully, you're enjoying that. It's not going to be specific to your child. It's more of just trying to keep you abreast of what's happening in class. And some of it may be very standard. So if you have 2 third graders, you may get the same message from 2 different third grade teachers because they're planning together in most cases. So they'll be doing many things the same. So you should be getting that information as well. If you're not, reach out to your teacher and ask that question. I also am calling families every single week. I randomly select 6 to 8 parents every week, and as an administrative team, we reach out to families and we ask 5 questions. It's about a 4-minute survey that I ask, and I started it last year at my other school, and it really just allowed me to get my hands on parents another way. Oftentimes, as a principal, you think, well, no news is good news, so I started to want to reach out to families more and to try to engage them in conversation. The feedback to this point has been exceptionally strong. When we do get information, we use it as an administrative team to try to tweak what we're doing in the classroom, or why does this parent feel this way, or things like that. So it is being used. It's not just lip service, but basically what we ask, if you get the call from me, 1, people get frantic because the principal called. So the first thing I have to do is talk people off a ledge that nothing's wrong. But then after that point, we ask, how's the school year going? How's your child enjoying school? We ask about communication in the classroom and as a school. Do you feel like you know enough about what's happening here at the school? We ask about how technology is being used. Is your child talking about using technology in the classroom? Because that is one of our focus areas this year, just beginning the process of getting kids using these tools. And then lastly, is there anything we can do differently to make our school a better place for your children? And like I said, the feedback to this point has been very, very strong. We keep a grid on that, and we keep track of everything, and we'll talk about it every single week as an administrative team. So it is very, very important to us to talk about that feedback. So as you can see, and then we also have the coffee chat. And then, in these situations, we know all families cannot attend at this time period, so we are videoing it. And we will post these on our website so families will have access. I'll post it also on our Facebook page as well so parents can access it that way. So it will be out there for people to view if they can't be here for these events. But the goal is really just to build that communication between the schoolhouse and our parent community, because I think that is ultra important in making sure we keep a good gauge of what's going on, and really allowing me to possibly change perceptions that could be out there or stories that people have heard, and really explain what is going on or why things are being done. There's a rationale to everything that we do, and I'm very comfortable in explaining what those rationales are. Questions about communication at this point? Okay. The other things I wanted to hit on, the bucket filling concept, my hope is that you are seeing a huge success with that program. We talk about it ad nauseum at the school. I will talk about it every single day on the morning news. Hopefully you heard the morning news, at least part of it this morning. I will do a manners tip of the day every day with our children. I do a life's lesson with the kids every day that I take from texts that I have. And it just really kind of hopefully reinforces what you're already saying to your children. My job is not necessarily to teach character. My job is to reinforce character. So what I try to do is reinforce what you're already talking to your children about. So there's not going to be anything outlandish or preachy about what I say on the morning news. It is going to be more of reminders to kids about how we should communicate with each other, how that we need to keep a positive attitude at all times in the classroom, how we handle situations. These are all things that I'm hoping that our parents are talking to our kids about anyway. And there's good reminders. And sometimes kids will remind their parents that they're not handling things the way that they should be, and I think that's a positive as well. So hopefully your children are coming home and saying, I had my bucket dipped, and or I filled a bucket today. That's the kind of dialogue that I want to see, even using with their brothers and sisters, because I think it can be powerful, and it's such a simplistic message that kids grab onto and understand. So we will talk about it regularly here at this school, and we want to create that culture of caring. It's really all about creating that environment where our kids are becoming young leaders, and that's what we need, because what we have to understand, and I'm sure all of you understand this, is that you can be the smartest kid in the world, but if you're not a great communicator, it doesn't really make any difference. There's not many think tanks out there. So, there's some people that can go in a room by themselves and not have to communicate with anyone and have great accomplishments, win a Nobel Prize probably. But the majority of us, to be successful, have to be communicators. And we have to teach our children how to interact with people. And I think it's a lost art. And technology, though some people will say, that's the demon in the room, and it can be if you rely solely on technology, but I don't think it is necessarily the demon. We have to use all of our data points and our resources with our kids. So we're going to use technology to communicate. It's one of the ways that they're going to have to learn how to do that. So that's kind of where we're coming from that standpoint. The media center that you are in right now, we're kind of handling a little differently this year. If you don't know so far, we use a kind of a hybrid model, and we're the only school that I know right now doing it. And when I had the opportunity to try something completely different this year, I jumped on it. And I hired a teacher instead of a media specialist, so she's actually had to learn all the media stuff, checking out books, all that kind of thing, because she was actually a first grade teacher. So the vision I wanted to create was an environment where it's a learning center. And so it just recently was named the Treehouse, which I absolutely love. So we're going to have, a title, and the first week is traditional. So it will be no different than any other experience you probably had if you've had a children coming through elementary school. It's a 45-minute block. They come on a set date every time, and it's very traditional in nature. They book checkouts, things like that. On B weeks, it's what I call a hybrid schedule, and what my goal is to get teachers to extend their classrooms. So it's not necessarily that they're coming during media time, that they would come down maybe during science class, and they would co-teach with Miss Bryn and extend a science lesson. Or if they're learning about social studies, they can extend a social studies lesson. They have all these resources available to them. They have a large learning environment. They have Apple TV on 2 different televisions. We have iPad access. We have all these things in this space that we can make it a real collaborative learning environment with 2 adults in the room. So the goal will be on those B weeks that teachers are signing up to extend what's going on in the classroom. Now, is it working completely successfully at this point? My answer would be no. Teachers are still getting used to it. And it's going to be a process. It's about how does this work most effectively? How do I plan most effectively to do this? Where am I getting the time to meet with the media teacher to kind of create these lessons to do this? So it's a work in progress, but we are excited that where it can go. We have people that are going to come out and check it out. There's people in the system that are very, very interested, but I wanted to kind of share the philosophy behind what it is. So it is a little different. But the goal is to really create that more interaction in this environment instead of what I have seen in the past as a principal, where it was the media teacher read a short story, and then the kids checked out books, and they lined up, and they went to class. And that was literally all that was done in about the 35-minute block of time. A mini lesson was probably done to talk about research or maybe a genre text, but for the most part, that's what the traditional media center has been for years in most schools and elementary schools. So we're trying to break that model and try to look at something a little bit more extensive in that regard. Questions about that? Making this way too easy. All right, so safety. That's an ongoing process still. I think we talked a little bit about it last week. You may have noticed people working here last week, if you were here, they have put at the front door, if you look on the right-hand side, you'll see a little black box. That is going to be a camera. Actually, it is a camera right now. It's not engaged yet, but that will be the area, once everything is organized and ready, that parents will look into, and that's how they'll get buzzed into our school. So once everything is up and running, parents will have to go to that camera, you communicate with our main office that will have a screen on their telephones, and then they will be buzzed into the building. All doors will be locked. At this point, we only have the front door open once the school day starts, but that will eventually end. We also will have cameras both inside and outside of our schoolhouse. I will have a bank of cameras that we will be able to use for really any kind of behavior. Though we won't have issues like this at Grand Oak, at least I haven't seen any issues like this. If there was a bullying situation or there was a fight, I could pull up a bank of cameras and see who initiated that incident. Or if something were to happen in a safety issue, I may be able to access a camera to see exactly what went on. So I think it has some benefits for an elementary. This already exists in middle and high school. So we're the last ones to get on board with that. Teachers also, the other big issue we have right now is access back into the building when they're outside. It's a real pain right now, but we have fob keys coming, and what that basically is we've already got the IDs ready. We're just waiting for them to activate the program, that a teacher will be able within certain hours to flash their staff ID just like in most businesses, and that'll unlock a door. We have those in 3 locations on our building that teachers will be able to come in from the playgrounds without having to prop doors and do things like that, which is a true safety hazard. So that will be another benefit for teachers because they've handled it well, but it has been a real obstacle, banging on doors to get back in, and you probably had the same problem if you were at Torrance Creek, but it will be something that we'll have fixed. We have a fob system that will be onto our bus lot door at the end of our first grade hall, and our staff parking lot door. So those will be the 3 access points that their fobs will work. And so if we have children outside, they will be able to get access back into the schoolhouse, which will be beneficial. But, we've been waiting patiently with that process, but that is what's going on with that. We're also, go ahead.
Will the volunteers, will they have?
No.
No. Okay.
No, and the reason behind that is, the staff needs to have access between certain hours, and they only have access to certain hours, and then it shuts off. But we don't want too many people to have access to the schoolhouse. So, if you're with a class of children, the teacher can obviously allow you to use their key to get in and out if that's the case, but at least we know that there's not too many of them. And then, when a teacher leaves, they only have access from Monday to Friday from this time to this time. So we won't have anybody that if somebody were to lose a key and try to come in over the weekend, they would not work. And then plus we have an alarm system anyway, but it will stop people from kind of just, trying to come in and out whenever they want to. So it is still an obstacle for parents, but it's better for the safety of the kids.